Hello everybody, welcome to another video on the 67 Stang. I know it's been a while since I've put up a video on the car. I've been very busy trying to get the floorboards in and really focused on actually getting it done and whatnot, so I haven't really been paying much attention to actually shooting video. I have shot some video along the way as I've been working on the floorboards. Some of it didn't turn out well, some of it I wasn't happy with, and whatnot. Anyway, it's a long story, but you get it. So, I do want to give you a quick update on the status of the car and where we are right now. As soon as the car goes by, it's always the fun filming in your garage. So, let me give you a quick little update. Okay, so we have gotten the floorboards in. I have successfully gotten both the passenger side and the driver's side floorboards in, welded, and primed. I'm still not 100% done with everything, but let me take you through what I had as a plan, and then we'll come in and I'll actually show you what I did, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so my original plan was to start with patching part of the torque box. So there was, if you remember, and I'll try to pop up a screenshot or a picture to show you, but the torque box on the driver's side, you know, it comes following the floorboard and toe board, and then comes down underneath that to the frame rail into the other part of the torque box. Well, that had rusted completely, well, mostly completely through. So my first plan was to get that patched, which I did, and it didn't. Now that I know more about what I'm doing, I'm not really happy with what I did. I'm going to try to get in to fix it, but it's in there, it's solid, the welds are holding, but it wasn't pretty by any stretch. Okay, then my next plan was to put in the driver's side floor pan, and I started working on it, and I worked on it, and I worked on it, and I worked on it. And it was not going anywhere fast. So I'll go ahead and throw in the video I got where I had done that, and then kind of point out the problems that I had. So I'll go ahead and kick over to that real quick here and show you that part. Okay, so we're going to start here on the passenger side. I know I actually started on the driver's side. But I switched over because of some issues I ran into the driver's side. You can see the passenger side's pretty much in. Is it perfect? No. I need some grinding, cleaning up of welds, but it's in there. It's welded down. It's welded the frame rails. I've checked welds. I've pushed, pulled. Everything seems to have adhered. I do still have some cleanup. I see some gaps in there I need to fill in. And whatnot, but honestly, I'm pretty damn happy with the way this came out. I did, as I kind of have expected, end up burning through kind of over here in the corner, but I already kind of figured that was going to happen, and I already knew I was going to have to patch that part of the seat riser. So I'm getting ready to do that, build my patch panel for that. And then I've got some other places where it burned through. You can see right there. That's not actually burned through. It's where I drilled a hole in the wrong spot for a spot weld. There's nothing there to spot weld to, so I just got to fill that in. That actually isn't burned through. It just needs to be filled in some more. But overall, like I said, this is, you know, in here pretty darn good. It ain't coming up. I'm pretty happy with the passenger side. A little bit more cleanup and it'll be good to go. The driver's side is another story. By the way, I found another use for dive weights. So I was a certified diver and an old battery to help hold things down when you're trying to do this by yourself. So got the spot welds along the frame rail over there in good and tight, and they seem to be strong. Need to finish grinding them. Started out okay here, but as I came towards the transmission tunnel, things got separated, and at the angle I was welding, I couldn't see that. So I've got a pretty big gap in several welds that didn't actually take or hold anything. So I'm going to have to grind those down and re-drill them and redo that. And then as we go up that way, the new pan pulls away from the tunnel a good bit, so I have to figure out how to push that in. I've tried beating it with a hammer and whatnot. Not working the greatest in the world, so I'm gonna have to do some finagling, probably with some sheet metal screws, maybe some pop. Okay, guys, so I'm just gonna lay it out. It was horrible. Only like 3 or 4 of the welds that weren't those spot welds along the frame rail were actually holding. I ended up just cutting the whole thing back out again. It was just so bad. It said it for being structural, there's just no way I could leave it like that. So like I said, I ended up cutting it all out so I could start all over again. So we're gonna go ahead and switch back to the rest of the video now. Okay, so you saw that and you saw how bad that was. I really was doing a horrible job. The welds weren't holding, I wasn't connected enough with the metal. There was big gaps, as you can see, and so I realized at that point that I really needed to go back to the drawing board and practice some more with my welder and to get that better before I proceeded. So that's what I did. I went back and practiced on with my welder, welding different pieces together, trying to do tack welds as well as plug welds, and trying to get it dialed in and work with it a bit more. And then I decided that the driver's side was way more than I anticipated, and it would probably be better to start with a smaller spot. And that's why I switched to the passenger side and started working on it. So let's go ahead and dive in the car now and see how well that worked. And we'll kind of talk as we go with what I did, the plan, how I work things and whatnot. So let's go ahead and get in the car and take a look. Okay, so I'm trying to use 2 cameras here because my phone has been acting up here over the last day or so. Miraculously, it started acting up when I started getting the notices that my phone was eligible for upgrade. I wonder if that's tied to anything. So, anyway, back to the car. So we're going to get back in. So this is the passenger side, and you see here is the new floorboard. And yes, I know my welds aren't exactly pretty, but they are holding. I've checked underneath to make sure we've got penetration. Everything looks good. So what I've done, let me tell you. So this is the piece. If you can follow, let me go back to here, and then it runs up there and back along, and then of course along the frame rail, and then back along. Let me bring you around, along the seat riser here. So, like I said, it's not pretty, but it's definitely in there. Okay, so a couple of things in getting this in that I learned. Oh, by the way, so I use spot welds up here. So this part is lapped to this, which is like it was with from the factory, that the toe board comes down and it laps with the floorboard. So I matched that up to the same way, put the same number of spot welds in there that I had from the factory, and got that. So then I came back and I lapped here as well. So this is actually, this is running under this, okay? And I've got several spot or plug welds along it as well. Okay, so that's all good. And then of course this is where the floor support is, and it's plug welded just like the factory was. And again, I've looked underneath, made sure I've got good penetration with the floor support under there, so this is good. And then this over here is also plug welded, where it laps with the existing floor pan that was still there and part of the seat riser, so it does rise up a little bit, and I can feel that right there. And this is same here. And then I did come in and make a patch right there for the seat riser. And no, it's not 100% perfect, but it's good enough in my opinion. Somebody may disagree with me, but I'm happy with it. I actually had a should add that I've had a buddy of mine who runs his own auto body shop come over and take a look at what I've done, and look at pictures as I was doing it, and he is reasonably comfortable with the strength of what I've done, and given the car's unibody and everything, he says he says he thinks everything looks okay. So if he says that, I'm okay with that. Okay, so like I said, I tried the driver's side, I got over here the passenger side. You can see what I did here. If I have any pictures of the progress as this goes, I'll try to insert some right here so you can kind of see. That progress that I did. I was pretty happy with this being my first time. Keep in mind, I've never friggin' welded a darn thing in my life until started working on this car. So like I said, I know things aren't perfect, but I'm pretty darn happy. So now let's jump over here to the driver's side. Okay, so we're over here on the driver's side now. This one really, as you saw, was a pain in the keister. It's bigger, obviously, because I've went all the way back to past where the seat riser goes. So that those two holes you see there, and those two holes is where the seat riser goes. That's where the bolts come up for the seat, right, in there. So I came much further back, and all that. So let's just talk about this. So I got and I know they're not pretty plug welds there on those, on the frame rail. Again, I had to play with the heat some to get it in there, and there's several that are very ugly. I get it, but they're, again, good and holding. That one right in there actually is where there's a space in the frame rail, a little cut, a knockout, a notch. And I drilled the holes before, and I didn't think about that when I put it in, but it is what it is. So I got those in, and then I tack welded as well as plug welded along the toe board. Okay, so I came up there, got that plugged and tacked in, so that's good there. Across, I did have to patch. So right there is where there was a little area for the frame rail that came up. That the toe on the patch panel I had for the floorboard didn't cover all the way. I had a complete new toe board, but honestly, I just didn't feel like I needed to go that far with it. So I got that patch in there. It's, again, welded in. It's tack welded and plug welded to the existing sheet metal there. So that's in there really good. Again, not pretty. I get it. I see some spaces and holes, but that's what, anyway, the welds are strong. One thing I did find is right there. That metal down at the bottom turned out to be much thinner than I expected. It hadn't rusted through until I went to weld, and then it burned through very quickly. There comes somebody with a loose belt that needs to be, or some bearing shot in a, yeah, anyway. So back to this. So I had to make a patch there, and I have to tell you, that patch was another pain, because it's very complex. It doesn't have just a single bend, it's a series of complex curves in there, and it took me a good hour or more to try to make that, to get it to fit in there. But I did a pretty good job, I think, and welded it in. Again, none of this is pretty, I know, I get it, but the welds are holding. Again, I've had them checked by somebody. So then I came back in, and again, to the tunnel, I plug welded in several spaces as well as tack welded. And then I came and did the same thing back here along the back edge. Now what I did differently, whoops, there's my finger, for this than the first time I tried this. I actually came underneath with my jack and pushed up. At the same time, I used dive weights, because I'm a diver, to push down. So I put dive weights before the area I was welding and after, and use that to help with the jack underneath to apply pressure to the two pieces that kept them together. I could have, I've heard people use sheet metal screws. I was actually going to try use pop rivets or something like that too, but this seemed to work pretty well. And we'll go into the car in a minute and I'll show you that it matches up really well. So got that in. Again, not the prettiest tacks in there, but it works. And then up here, what I did, this, as you saw in the first attempt, this part right here was pulled, this part was pulled away from the tunnel here. So there's something else I've learned in the process of doing all this. First, don't be scared to use a hammer. Applying the proper persuasion and leverage, to quote Pirates of the Caribbean, will get you really far. So yes, I would come in and I hammered this a good bit to get it bent out. I also don't be scared to use heat. So I used my torch, my propane torch. That's all. I don't have acetylene or anything. So I used my propane torch to heat the metal and beat it out, and then slowly work tacks up the side to get it into place, and then ended up coming back across. And it looks like this. There's a gap here. That's just bad welding. Trust me, there's no gap there. There's no light. Whoops, sorry. No light coming through there, so that's good. And then as we come up here, this is actually another patch I had cut too high on the tunnel there, so I put in another little patch there. Again, it's not pretty, but it's holding. No light's coming through. It's not coming apart. So there we go. Well, you can kind of see what we've done and where we've done it. Okay, so you kind of see where I've done, the progress I've made. I'm pretty impressed with myself so far. So what do we got next? What's next on the agenda? Well, a couple of things. Sorry, looking back in the car thinking. So first, there's still some more welding I need to do. I plan to go under the car, and I'm going to show you that in a second, and do some additional reinforcing welds under the car where those new sheet metal and the old sheet metal overlap one another. Make sure that's as good as I can possibly get it and strong as I can get it, because these are unibody cars. So the floors all form part of the structure and the integrity of the vehicle. So again, we'll make sure it's safe. I've already done some welds under the car on where this back edge of the driver's side floor pan meets the old floor pan. So I've already started it, but I want to make sure I've got those done. I think you'll see I've done a better job of welding under there. After that, the next part is this thing. This is a bracket for the emergency brake. It goes on the passenger side. I think it goes like this somewhere. So I've got to get it off of here. I accidentally cut it off without remembering it was there. So if you ever do your floor pans, make sure, again, you note where things like this are. Take measurements and pictures. I got in and started cutting, so I've got to figure out where this bracket goes and its orientation so I can get it welded back on where it's supposed to be. Also got to get it off this old piece of floor pan, which is just a series of spot welds on here, so I'll pop those and then just weld the bracket up. I'd actually thought about just trimming this off and welding the old sheet metal there, but I don't know, it just doesn't seem right. I think the spot welds are the better way to go with the direct bracket on there. Back the way it was. So anyway, so I got to do that. So that's next on the agenda. There's also another bracket that's on the driver's side. It comes off the transmission tunnel and it comes over down kind of that shape, in kind of like an upside down in, I guess. You'll see it. I got to make sure it's welded in. I tried to weld it in from the top. It didn't. It got it, but I don't think it's got it as good as I need to. There's also some other things under there. I want to weld the transmission tunnel brace. It looks like it was just spot welded by the factory, and it looks like part of it's pulled away. I'm going to look at that, and maybe I need to weld that back a little more to strengthen it up. And then I've also got to finish patching the torque box. underneath. I got to cut out. I've already cut out part, but as much weak metal as I found that I didn't think was that bad here, I'm going to get in, make sure that torque box, all the weak metal is cut out, and I've got some 14 gauge, I think it's 14 gauge sheet metal to put back in. And it should be pretty straightforward. I'm going to butt weld that in there, so it should be good. Once I get all the welding done, then we've got to seal things up. So I've got some seam sealer. I've got two kinds. I've got the brushable seam sealer here. So that's going to go every place where there's welds to make sure that no rust. There is a good seal there. So this is going to go on the inside of the car. I have some caulk style, with the caulking gun style that I use underneath the car as well to seal up those. Once I get all that sealed up, then I'm going to come back in with some POR 15. Now, people either love this stuff or hate this stuff. I've seen it both ways online. People say it doesn't hold up, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so from what I've been able to tell, a lot of folks that I trust, like Jeff Ford and his Auto Resto Mod channel, his group of channels, that use this religiously. The key is it's got to go in places where you don't get a lot of UV, right? So you don't get a lot of sunlight, mostly. It doesn't react or hold up well to UV. So you're not going to put it anywhere where the sun. This is going to go on the floorboard, under the seats, under the carpet, under soundproofing, so it should be fine. And of course, the other key is to prep everything as best as you can. Get it good, dried out, cleaned off, etched up, whatnot, so we can do that. And I've also, again, wherever I've welded and ground, I've been putting primer down, again, to help stop any rust. So we'll put all this down in here when we're done with the welding and we've properly seam sealed everything. So that's kind of the plan. Now let me show you a little more under the car. So we're going to go down now. Okay, the fun getting down on the ground with one hand when you're old. Okie doke. So I've got the car jacked up on jack stands so I can get under here better. So like I said, first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and start doing more tacks on here to get a more constant bead. So this is obviously the old floorboard. This is the new floorboard, and you can kind of see some of the discoloration where the tacks from up above have made contact. And then I'm going to come back in here and do some more along here, and then back even up, coming up from the other side there. And I'm going to do the same thing. There's the passenger side over there. I'm going to get that in and do the same kind of meeting of the minds there. So then this here is the other bracket I was telling you about. So it's not pretty, but I've got some welds and they seem to be connected and made it up for this, but I'm going to try to get it a little better. Do that. Then this was the other spot I was telling you where you can see there's looks like a couple of plug welds holding this in. I'm going to try to hammer that up in a little more and maybe do some tack welds along here, try to make that more sturdy. So I do want to show you too, this, when I first laid this floor pan in, there was probably a quarter inch to a half inch gap between the floorboard patch panel and that. So now that's in there pretty nice. I know it looks like a crater under here because I beat the hell out of things on that. So that other bracket I was showing you goes somewhere over in there. I think it goes on this side of the frame rail, but I'm going to have to do a little research to find out exactly where that's supposed to go and get it in there accordingly. So anyway, so that's it. And then that's the hole on the torque box that I've started, that I've got enough sheet metal to replace almost, I got a 12 by 12 sheet. So I can replace everything under here up to, and this is pretty good gauge metal on this side. The closer we get over here, and the more I get over to here, it gets better. So I think I can just cut in here and down to about here and up and get this all cut out and put in. So that's going to be after I get all this other stuff done. But now the car is strong enough, I felt, to actually get it jacked up on jack stands and make it where I could get under here to do work, because I was scared with the thing being the way it was. It wouldn't be good to jack it up and throw it out of square while I was welding the floorboards in. So anyway, let me show you this. This was a rusted mess up here under the door, a bunch of surface rust. So I also got down here, cleaned it up, and put some rust converter on it. And so I'm going to clean that up and probably prime it. I've got to replace this seal too, which I also have as well. But that's a later date in another video. Oops. Fingers keep getting in the way. So there we go, guys. There's your Mustang update. Hope you've enjoyed it. Please make sure to subscribe to the channel if you're not already. We were up 79 subscribers this morning, so pretty excited about that. I know in the grand scheme it's not a lot, but we're going to keep working. Do what I was telling you, and again, when I get that done, I'll put another update on there. So with that, guys, hope you've enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing y'all in the next video. Thanks.